Alright guys, so welcome back. Right, so today, how to set up a drum kit. More specifically, actually, we'll mainly be talking about how to position the various elements of the kit so it's comfortable for you to play in a relaxed and efficient manner. First thing I tend to position is the stool. This is because you'll usually have a fairly well-defined playing area, the area which you can actually take up. Now what the limiting factor is how far back you can actually be. So if you're too far back to a wall behind you or whatever it might be in a cramped area, you'll find your elbows are hitting and they'll restrict your movement. So within the space that you are, obviously bearing in mind there's going to be people in front of you probably in a band scenario as well, find the best compromise in terms of how far back you can be. Now in this instance we don't have any particular limits, but what I need to do is be aware of how deep my bass drum is. Well, my experience is this one's 14-inch deep, goes to the front of the mat there if I put the stool here. So I'm going to sit with my feet in the position that I want them to be, so that I'm relaxed. Stool height optimal as per my other video on stool height. So I know that my bass drum pedal wants to be here. Now, I'm not actually facing forward here. If I was to face forward it would be like this, and that's fine, it just means my bass drum will be off at that angle. Bearing in mind that when you stand up, very rarely are you standing so your feet are in a straight line, they're often a little bit like that, splayed out. So my right foot or bass drum foot, as I'm sitting, is pointing straight forward. And what I know is that my pedal for the bass drum needs to be there, my pedal for my hi-hat needs to be there. So first thing to go into position after the stool, it's going to be the bass drum, but very important that the stool goes first. So my best guess to start off with is that it goes there. Yep, okay, so that's good. It's facing straight forward. Ergonomically, that's good. If I wanted to sit facing absolutely straight forward, the bass drum will be off to this angle, but I tend to do this so we're slightly sideways like most drummers do. So once the bass drum's down, you can attach your pedal. So what we have to do, lift the bass drum up slightly, slide the pedal on. It doesn't have to be too tight. Finger tight's fine. And you'll also notice that where I've got this set up it is that the front of the bass drum is slightly off the floor as well. So actually, it isn't actually touching the floor. It's actually level. I know it doesn't look like it is, but that's because this floor slopes slightly backwards. This is actually dead level. So double check, sit down, foot, optimal position, thighs slightly above knees, shin facing slightly forward. Now that's the heart of the kit. Everything else goes round it. Okay. Now obviously the heart of the kit, one might argue, is actually the snare drum. But if you're not sitting comfortably and you don't have your feet in the right place, then you've nowhere left to go. So what I've actually got here now, I'll get some sticks so I can show you. I've got the snare positioned so that, well I will have if I move it slightly, so that as I'm sat comfortably, optimal distance from the bass drum, elbows at my side, we're hitting the snare drum damn centre, and the height is such that if I want to do a rim shot I can easily do it, if I want to do a normal shot I can easily do it. I'm not having to reach up too much, it's not too low down. My preference is with it moving slightly away from me, but ultimately it's directly between my knees. But most importantly, I'm not having to reach forward for it or tuck back into it. I hit it in the middle with my hands exactly where I am with my arms at my side. So the next thing I would put down is my other foot, and that would be the hi-hat. So again, I'm positioning it, let's move that stand slightly, where my limbs want to go. I'm not having to move or reach. That's a little bit high, we'll talk about that in a second. With that in that position, look, my feet are natural, which means this one is slightly back towards me a little bit. I'm facing over there, my clock face, I'm facing about 11 o'clock, bass drum facing the audience. Now look, here I am on the snare, sticks right in the middle of it, not here, not here, and my arms are by my sides. I can reach to the hi-hat without really having to move much. It's not round here, it's not over here, it's not too far over the snare, and that's a nice relaxed position. Comfortable. Now, those are your main elements. But if we just build the rest of it up, now I've obviously, as you see, I've already got this tom mount on the bass drum, so it's actually set right. But if I put this on here, what you'll note is that actually there's not much of a gap. In fact, in reality, I'd probably just micro adjust at this point and move that forward slightly. But I only have to move slightly to get to it. It's not too high, it's not too low. It's comfortable to reach it. And so this is the theme throughout this. Put everything so you don't have to move very much to get to it. The most you'll be playing is obviously the hi-hat, the snare and the bass drum. So that means that both feet and the snare have to be in exactly the right place. You won't be up on the tom quite as much, but I'm not having to move my arms very much to reach it. Similarly, in this case this is a 4-piece set, similarly with the floor tom. I have my floor tom a bit lower than my snare, but you can see that all I have to do, I'll put a different camera angle up for this shortly so you can see, but all I have to do is move like that. Okay, to bring my left hand round to the floor tom I have to twist slightly, but ultimately I'm reaching everything without too much effort. Now, just got 2 cymbals set here, but again, I'm going to put this not too high. It's my crash, and I can reach it hardly having to reach. I see people with cymbals too high up. That was very fashionable years ago. Why? Can reach easily with both hands without too much problem. And then finally in this setup, I've got my ride cymbal. Well, I put this over the bass drum, as is common. So I will put it so that, again, it's at a nice comfortable height. I just put the stand the other side of this floor tom. There we go. It's a nice comfortable height. I don't have to reach very far at all to actually hit it. So there we are. Just angle it in. So I'll get the camera in a minute and move it around and show you. But that's now in a nice position so that it's easy for me to get to. There. So look, hardly have to move my hand. Okay, I'll stretch a bit for the bell. Also crash it. So there is player's perspective. Everything's within easy reach. You can see bass drum facing dead forward. Right foot goes where that pedal is, left pedal slightly offset because I'm actually facing with the snare drum directly between my knees. And I can reach everything else really easily. If I had another crash, I'd probably put it here. The same principle would apply. And then from over here, you can see how everything's positioned relative to each other. You'll see that I've spread the legs on this stand for maximum stability. But essentially, that's it. Okay guys, so there we go. In summary then, where do your feet go? Position your stool where it's ideal for you, bearing in mind the venue and the wall behind you and the stage space. You can't change where your legs go. You can't change where your feet are. So you have to put the kit to match your anatomy. Don't put the kit somewhere and think, oh, I'm going to have to move myself around so I'm stretching or too cramped. It's got to be where it's right for you. Once your feet are in position, your stool's in position, snare between your knees. I'm facing it to about 11 o'clock rather than 12 o'clock. The bass drum's dead ahead. I'm at about 11 o'clock. Arms at sides, sticks hit the middle, hi-hat with arm still at the side, ride cymbal, arm still at the side, reaching a little bit for the bell, crash, not much of a reach, rack tom, probably the most reach for the rack. But I know that I'm relaxed. Wherever I am, I can reach everything really easily. Okay, so I hope that's helped. Any questions, stick it in the comments. But thanks for watching, guys, and catch you in the next one. Cheers.